Call this meeting to order. Mary, roll please.
Here.
Here. Here. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. We'll start off the meeting with public comment. Do we have anybody down? Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Items A and B. Item A is the 8/3/2026 Commission meeting minutes. Item B is appropriation ordinances 2026-16, 2026-16A, and 2026-P16. Any questions, comments, or concerns on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A and B.
Have a motion by Commissioner Redland,
Second.
second by Commissioner Howard. Mary, roll.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Move on to item 4, candidates for commission vacancy. I guess we'll go ahead and open the floor up to anybody in the audience tonight that is here to speak on behalf of wanting to fill the open commission seat. Certainly welcome to come to the podium and make a statement, and then I think if we have any questions, we can ask those, and then we'll take that into consideration and vote at the next meeting. So if there's anybody that'd like to go first, you're more than welcome to come to the podium and give us your name, and we'll get started.
Good evening.
Evening.
My name is Rochelle Stanley. Interested in the position of the City Commission. Just some things that were important to me. Employee retention, being fiscally responsible, water conservation, and building relationships and maintaining those relationships with legislators. I feel like a lot of laws get passed are great for the big 5 counties, but we have to continue to let them legislators in Topeka realize that we're out here and what they do matters. So, have any questions for me?
Michelle, can you give us, I know maybe some of these guys maybe have a better idea. Can you just give us a little rundown of kind of what your experience in government is and what you bring to the table?
Well, I've worked in county government and state government. I've worked in 9 different counties in the county appraiser's offices. From beginning at entry level all the way to county appraiser, so seen every phase of it. I worked for Kansas Department of Revenue for 7 years when we implemented our new software that we use for the appraiser's offices. I helped about 30 counties implement that software, and at that time I got to not only work with the appraiser's offices, most counties, their register of deeds, their clerk and treasurers all wanted the same software, so I got to work with all of those offices. I've been on several boards over the time, from economic development to just about anything that someone needs asked me to do, I'll do it. I help with the election audits when they need someone here in Sherman County.
Okay.
I've been on our executive board for our Appraisers Association. I do a lot of work with legislators. I used to just concentrate on our local ones, but we have 1 representative, 1 senator, so they don't have the majority of the votes. So I shifted my focus a few years ago to the taxation committees, because those are the ones that I deal with the most, and I reach out mostly to the Eastern Kansas legislators. Recently, Senator Karen Tyson asked me if I'll be on her brainstorming committee that she has that's made up of mostly taxpayers, a few government officials. So I feel like getting a voice for Western Kansas is important.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? I'll ask you 2 quick softball questions then,
Okay.
before we let you go. Well, maybe not. 1 softball, 1 puts you on the spot.
Okay.
What do you like best about living in Goodland? And then the second part of that is, what can the city improve on?
I like I'm living in western Kansas pretty much my whole life, mostly in small towns. I like the small town atmosphere. I like that everybody gets involved with things. I like the community get-togethers they have, like this play in the parks, and you know, I have grandkids, so I like going to the school events, you know, rec sports and that kind of stuff. That's mostly why I like small town atmosphere. And what could the city improve on? Well, I think this is for all city and county and state government. I think there's always, you know, most people think I do their taxes, so I hear tax questions all day long. And one county that I was working at today, they sent out their revenue neutral rate letters, so I gotta explain those all day long. I think there's always a way in your personal and business that you can sharpen your pencil and do what's best with your budget. I always look at tax dollars as if they're my own dollars. Would I buy this if it's on my own money versus, and so I don't know that the city needs to prove on that, but I just think that's something that every government could look at, trying to improve how we spend our other people's money.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's all we have for you then.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for
Appreciate you,
allowing me to
Rochelle.
I'm Jill Thomas. I'm here on behalf of Sandra Dumler. She is interested in the position but was unable to be here tonight. I think she's reached out to each of you, but I just have a letter from her that I'll read for you guys. My name is Sandra Dumler, and I would like to express my interest in serving as a city commissioner for the city of Goodland, Kansas. I regret that I am unable to be present in person today due to a previously scheduled out-of-town commitment. Honoring my obligations is important to me, and I appreciate your understanding. I was born in Hayes and moved to Goodland at the age of 1. Goodland has been my home ever since. I attended elementary, junior high, and high school here before continuing my education at Emporia State University and Northwest Kansas Technical School. I am an enrolled agent with more than 38 years of experience in accounting, entity and estate planning, and business consulting. My career began at Kennedy & Co. LLC in 1988, and in 2003 I opened my own accounting firm. As the business grew, I welcomed a partner in 2019. As a lifelong resident, I have always been committed to the strength and growth of our community. I have served on numerous boards and worked closely with youth organizations, believing strongly in the importance of investing in future generations. The role of City Commissioner requires dedication, integrity, and a clear understanding of local government. It also requires the ability to listen to the people of Goodland while upholding the guidelines and statutes that govern our city. I believe a commissioner must be willing to learn from past while keeping a steady focus on the future, making decisions that preserve, strengthen, and benefit our community for years to come. I believe I possess the character, life experience, and determination to fulfill this role. I also recognize that commissioners will not always agree. Differences in perspective are natural, but respectful listening and collaboration are essential. It is important to me that all commissioners work together to find solutions that best represent our community. While consensus may not always be possible, I will always strive for positive, constructive, and non-confrontational resolutions. As a municipality, we must acknowledge that funds are tight. Strong budgeting practices and transparent communication are vital for Goodland to thrive. A reliable police force and a dedicated municipal workforce are the backbone of our city. As a commissioner, I would work hard to support employee retention and encourage open, respectful communication among staff, department heads, the city administrators, and the commission. The people who live in Goodland and those who will call it home in the future deserve leadership they can trust to protect our safety, infrastructure, and long-term stability. Thank you for considering my interest in this position. Goodland has shaped my life, my career, and my values, and I remain committed to serving the community that has given me so much.
Thank you, Jill. I appreciate you. Anybody else like to come up to the podium to speak? Kenton, you about got out of your chair. Did you want to go up there? Okay, we'll bring that to a conclusion then. It's our intention that at our next meeting, we will, once Commissioner Cloyd is here, we will we'll have a formal action and take a vote on that. So thank you for everybody that took the time to come out and speak to us tonight. I'll move on to number 5, ordinances and resolutions. Move on to item A, ordinance 1825, code additions for electric scooters. Mr. Brown?
Mayor, members of the commission, Police Chief Earhart has put together this ordinance. It was discussed at last meeting. It includes the changes that were discussed at the last meeting and was brought up as an issue at the meeting before that. This is the completed ordinance, and if you have any questions, please bring it to the staff's attention.
Okay. Ask my fellow commissioners if they have any questions, comments, or concerns about ordinance 1825 that we've discussed over the last few meetings. If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1825.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 1825.
A motion by Commissioner Redlin,
Second.
second by Commissioner Howard. Mary, roll please.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Move on to item B, resolution 2026-16, resolution authorizing submission of EDA Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance Grant application.
The grant application, Mayor, members of the commission, the grant application was submitted earlier this year. It was, the consideration started in a category underneath disaster supplemental grant application for fiscal year 25 for EDA. Sherman County was not listed among those that it, you know, you always hear on the news media when it's been declared a disaster area. Sherman County wasn't included in any of those, but because of the producers that are going to be part of this project, it was originally thought that it could fit that category. In the initial process, in the review by the EDA, they said it would not meet that disaster supplemental grant. And that was because of, you know, the original advice from the representative of the EDA for state of Kansas. We had pursued that option. They asked for a verbal confirmation that it was okay to move it into a different category, which is the Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance Grant, or an acronym of PWEAA. Of course, you have known that before. But what it does with this category is would be a 60% grant and a 40% match. And it puts it in that category. As part of the curing letter, we've made it through the first step. The EDA has sent to the city a curing letter which identifies a number of areas that they would like either additional information or corrected information as part of the grant application. One of the things that was brought up in that curing letter was to have a resolution that matched the category that it was actually being considered under. And that's why this resolution is before you today. And it still means this is for the electrical project to extend power to the industrial park in a capacity sufficient enough for the grain mill and bakery. That's planned to be constructed in the industrial park, and also to build a substation. That project is estimated right now about $6.5 million to $6.8 million. So a 60% grant would mean $44 million of that would come from because of this federal grant. The other remainder part of it, we will still have some work to do once we get it. But that can't occur until the EDA concludes their process. So that is what is before you this evening, and stand for questions.
Certainly been something that we have discussed kind of ad nauseum over the last 6 to 8 months. I certainly hope that the efforts that city staff has put in, the time and effort that they put in, will yield the results that we want, because this is certainly a necessary project, a big project. We have to do it, and certainly would like to have help paying for it, for dang sure. So I think we need to continue to move forward to try to lessen that burden on the taxpayers, and this is the easiest way for us to do it, I think.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-16.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Howard, a second by Commissioner Redland. Mary, roll.
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Floyd, Showalter.
Yes. Move on to item 6, formal actions, the FTA drug and alcohol policy.
Mayor, members of the commission, this is a drug and alcohol policy put forward by Kansas Department of Transportation. The operations of the city van that provides point-to-point transportation for people unable to have transportation is actually regulated by the Federal Transit Administration, and it includes these requirements of drug and alcohol. They have requested that the policy be updated. It hasn't been updated for a number of years, and this is the updated policy customized for the city of Goodland. And it's basically an addition or an outline for negative dilution results, and I don't know which type of test. So our drivers for the transportation van have to go on under regular drug and alcohol tests, and this is the guidelines put forward by the feds. We'll leave it at that, and that we're required to follow.
Okay. Any questions, comments, or concerns about the FTA drug and alcohol policy?
Nope.
I make a motion to approve the FTA drug and alcohol policy as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by myself. Commissioner Redland has seconded it. Mary, roll please.
Howard,
Yes.
Floyd, Redland,
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes,
And I left that policy up there for you three to sign, if you would please.
will do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Move on to discussion items. Item A, 621 West 17th, final steps and timeline for completion for unfit structure.
And I will turn this over to Zach Hildebrand, building official.
Good evening.
We're back again. This one is basically to set the final timeline so we can be done with this process, and I'm sure they're sick of coming every meeting as well. What's ahead of, or in front of you, is to be brought to the first meeting of October, so that would give them a little over the 45 days, and then that would be the cleanup of the yard and the windows.
Okay. Can we do that? 45 days, clean up the yard and the windows? Huh?
I believe it was October 2nd.
October.
I'd have to look at the calendar.
Yeah.
It was the Friday before the meeting, the first meeting of October.
I don't have my CFF in front of me. Does somebody have that date?
The Friday is October 2nd.
Friday, October 2nd. Friday, October 2nd,
For the windows and what else?
and clean up the yard.
It's not the siding?
Have that listed in there? It's just the yard and the windows.
Well, she was doing it on the siding, not the windows and
The weather's been nicer, so you
Yeah.
should be working on the siding, so.
All things that probably should be worked on, but
the, yeah.
we're just trying to bring it to a conclusion. Can you have it, can you have those things done by October 2nd?
I hope so.
Answer I was looking for was yes.
I'm guessing,
Yes.
but yeah, well,
Okay. Your support team has said yes, so lean on your support team, okay? Hopefully we can get this wrapped up, so. We need to cover anything else, Zach? Okay, October 2nd, let's do it to it. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Zach. Move on to item B, the 8th Street project review.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So what each one of you should have in front of you are just kind of some of the plan sheets to show you the overall layout. These are a couple of sheets you guys don't have here to start out with. Kind of want to start out with just talking about the phasing and just the overall, you know, we've talked about this before, but just talked about it again. The overall, you know, what all is encompassing of the project. So starting at 27, doing that access from 27 to Cattle Trail. Jumping there, Cattle Trail over to, I know, I'm gonna start a fight, Delau, on how you say that. But going from there, then all the way through, could you scroll down one, Josh? Next sheet. All the way to Maine, not touching Maine and the bricks, other than resetting where we're gonna be working up against. Then going from Maine to Caldwell, again, not touching the Caldwell intersection, and then Caldwell to Cherry. So, in past discussions, we had talked about basically everything is going to be reduced down to 42 feet toe to toe. So you have 42 feet, the curb and gutter outside of that. So the only places we really won't have that is where we're tying into Maine. We'll widen back out to match that, or to match the break there, and then there at Caldwell to match that pavement, and then with this one block stretch between Caldwell and Cherry, it made no sense to come in and come back out. So at this time, so basically, yeah, Josh, could you go back up the first sheet? So just kind of show you, I've had conversations with city staff, with Dustin, with Kent, and with Kent, on phasing, on what, you know, all we're looking at here. And so this is kind of what we came up for a phasing plan. I'm going to anticipate, I mean, we're doing a mile-long stretch of road. This is going to be every bit of a 7 to 9 month project. It's broken out into phases. So, and I'll kind of give you some information as to how we came up with those phases. So, phase 1 is really the first thing we want to get done. That'll be the access to the highway between highway and Cattle Trail, and then also one of the accesses, or Delau, that would be part of phase 1. And the reason we would do that is because if we included the DeLeo access in with phase 2, then basically everybody else would have to figure out a way to drive two-way traffic through an alley right there between the county shop and the backside of those houses. So we're going to include that in phase 1. When phase 1's done, move on to phase 2. Open that up to the east side of Syracuse. So if you're following there, and then come back down here, phase 2 is the east side of Syracuse. Kind of same situation with Wheat Ridge. We didn't want to close off both because that's their only access there. Didn't want to close both of their accesses off at the same time. So phase 2, phase 3 would then go from Syracuse on over and hit Kansas. Now one of the discussions we had, Kent requested, was we always wanted to make sure we had some kind of access for ambulances either onto or off of Kansas Avenue. So what the plan is right now is to basically split Kansas Avenue into 2/3 and a third. So do 2/3 in one phase, 1/3 in the next phase. The 1/3 they would still be able to come north. What we would probably do is have people detour that are coming south, 1 block east, and then south 1 block back to 8th Street. So so then whenever we got done with phase 3, we'd move on to phase 4. Then the ambulance, we'd still have two-way traffic basically. Then back to two-way traffic. It just wouldn't be the full intersection at that point. So so then phase 4 would be a longer stretch, basically to Main Street. Jumping then to phase 5, Main Street to Caldwell, and then the last section being Cherry to Caldwell Avenue. So just looking at those, do you guys have really any questions about kind of how I hope I covered it enough as to how we broke that up. I mean, between phases, 4 and 5, Maine was a good stopping point, Caldwell's a good stopping point. We didn't want to close all that stuff off, obviously, at one time. Kind of want to keep the contractor concentrated in one area, and hopefully they'll work a lot faster that way too. So, so yeah, you guys have any?
So for somebody's driveway that exits right out onto 8th Street during the construction process, what is the expectation for how they're gonna be able to access their house?
So those will be closed. We actually looked at that. I think most residents have alley access or right by side street access. If they don't have that, then yeah, we'll make special considerations, which I think we ran into. Would we count a couple, one or two for sure that we might run into that where we might have to do something to provide access. As that gets a little bit closer and we get a little bit more detailed, we'll go talk to those individuals that don't have either the side road or the direct alley access. So, but yeah, we do know there's one or two out there. So.
For somebody that doesn't watch city commission meetings regularly and knows that this is coming,
Mhm.
what is the earliest time that we start communicating with them that there is a project forthcoming?
We've already started with some because we've asked some questions along the stretch, just as it pertains to accesses. That's mostly been the discussion points there. I mean, we can start putting stuff out. Our plan is here in late fall, October, November, to have this thing ready to bid, and then bid it, and then hopefully start. We want to start phase 1 here. It's El Nino, but it's, who knows what that means, for here.
Yeah.
So we'll see what kind of winter we get, but the real hope is we can get this phase 1 at least done here this winter. It's a smaller piece of the project that we can get knocked out, I think, a little bit easier. Some of these bigger stretches, not a lot of contractors are able to cover concrete like that and do winter paving. But our hope is here in this winter would be probably January of 27 or February 27. Getting that done and then working through the next year to finish it.
I was just asking, just out of curiosity, if there's a homeowner along that stretch that maybe has some landscaping planned or gonna put in a sprinkler system at some point,
Sure.
they might wanna hold off because they know there's a change coming that.
Yeah, we can.
Earlier
We can
than we
definitely put
communicate,
something
the better.
together. Yeah, we can put a letter together and work with city staff on putting a letter together to go hand those out or get those delivered. So, yeah, I'll put that on there. So really, I guess, Josh, if you want to go through, and the next sheets are the same sheets that you guys have there in front of you. They just kind of show just kind of general layout, what this is going to look like. I'll start off by saying, here on our access, we already talked to KDOT a little bit about this. They're allowing us to widen it basically to what 12th Street is, which it's fairly wide. It's 44 to 45 feet. We just have to fill out a permit, so an access permit, which isn't a big issue. So that'll widen from, it'll widen 20 feet, 10 feet on each side is the overall plan there. So we show a little bit of tying in there to Cattle Trail, and then like I said, there on the east side of Cattle Trail, we won't have any work there in front of the county shop. Well, I say that, it's gonna depend on a future question I have for you after we go through this too. So, Josh, can you go to the next slide? Sorry, I say slide, sheet of paper. Again, starting at the concrete, actually we're starting about 10 feet in. A lot of times when we do these projects, we'll go 1 to 2 panels into the concrete. So if you see us taking out some of that concrete, it's just hoping to get a better tie-in, because when they would have done that, you would have had a nice cross section of concrete. Well, then when you go to tie into the asphalt's more rounded and then squared off. So we'll go back onto the concrete a little bit and do some of that. Josh, if you want to keep scrolling, just try to hit on some points here. Everywhere we're tying into a side street, we're going back to at least the radius point. And when I say the radius point, basically where the curve of the curb stops. Some places we'll go back a little further back, because what I don't want to do whenever we're doing this is you're driving down 8th Street and then you've got to come up and hump up for the side street crown. So I want to be able to taper, basically have a nice cross section so you're driving and you're not being influenced by you know, a crown or the high point of the road on these side streets. So, yeah, if you want to keep scrolling, Josh, I don't know, there's not really a whole lot there. Yeah, there kind of shows doing a little bit of extra work there on Syracuse. If you want to keep scrolling there, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. Keep going to, oh, stop right there. Just give them an idea. One thing we did talk to city staff about, since we are touching, I mean, we're redoing all the curb and gutter. There's a couple of paving areas. Basically what everybody's drive will be, depending on, you know, one of these questions I ask later, is we're for sure going to do the first 5 feet, and then we'll do an additional 5 feet to basically tie back into existing driveways or accesses. We'll end up redoing some of the parking here by the GAC, also redoing the parking there that's right next to, or right adjacent to the library. Trying to think what else we need to go over before I ask. Another question here.
That drainage on the north side of GAC, it's not changing a whole lot, but it's just being,
No. Yeah, I mean, we'll do our, so yeah, the crown as the road comes down there off from 8th Street to Main, we'll flatten that one out a little bit more. We showed doing some additional curb and gutter there to the north to try to help that as best we can. We're in western Kansas, it's flat, so we'll do our best. But anyways, do our best to try to help the ponding issue that happens in that area. If you want to keep scrolling, scroll down one more sheet, if you would. Okay. Oh man, it's gonna hit me in the wrong spot. Okay, one more. So right back over here on the left side of the road, or left side of the sheet. Is that right? Clark. Sorry, thank you. Right there at Clark, there's an ADA ramp that just goes up onto the sidewalk into the park. Wasn't planning on putting that back. In discussions with Canton, the only thing we could figure was that was for somebody parking their car, ADA access on into the park. With the new standards that we have now with ADA, that wouldn't fly. We would actually have to bring the curb into the park a little bit. I don't know if that's a concern or consideration that you guys want us to make. There's a couple other ones down on 9th Street Ken and I had talked about too, and Kent. If that's possibly a better solution, but just something to be aware of.
tie it into the discussion we had about the ADA ramps at Caldwell.
Yes, so that was gonna be my next one, since we were right there too. So, I'll hit on this too before, everywhere where you see on your sheets where we're gonna put an ADA ramp, we'll have to put in pavement markings. So we'll put in, I think the standard that the street crew typically does is the 2 foot by 8 foot bars. We'll have those at every one of those crossings on the side streets and on 8th Street. That's a requirement for basically the pro WAG or ADA requirements. One of the things I ran into here is we're putting sidewalk here at Caldwell. Is it is really difficult to fit an ADA ramp in on that would be the southwest corner of Caldwell and 8th. We could fit it there, but right there on the north side, we've got, nope, down, right in there, yep. We've got 2 inlets and then basically the inlet box that brings all those pipes together. There isn't enough room and the elevations can't work right in order to put something there. So our only option is to, if we want to put an ADA ramp there, is to shift it to the west. So you're on the west side of that inlet box. You guys know where I'm at? Can you picture in your head?
Mm-hmm.
So the problem with that is then that moves your stopping situation, right? So the stop sign currently is, well, yeah, right there. I mean, you guys probably can't see that little circle that's right below. Yeah, right on where his hand is where the stop sign is. If we were to put that ADA ramp in, I mean, we'd be pushing that stop sign back an additional 20 feet. I don't know if that's something that you really want to do. Again, I guess you don't have to have answers now, but just something to think on. The only thing that it would do if we weren't able to put something there, it would just require somebody that wasn't breaking the law or jaywalking to go up and around the intersection. They wouldn't be able to cross directly across 8th Street, so.
Now, their behavior may not follow that,
Right.
but the markings and the handicap ramps
Yeah.
would make it so you'd have to go.
Up and around. I mean, you couldn't just go straight across. And that's all due to the fact that, again, we can't fit an additional ramp right there on that corner, so.
And that's why some of the discussion was, well, do we go back and use the handicap ramp at Clark and put a pedestrian crossing there?
Right, to put a mid-block crossing. It'd take some additional signage. We'd want some additional signage, because it's not necessarily an intersection. But that is, a consideration that we could do just to go ahead and
If we,
prematurely get people up over there that are going to Casey's or something along those lines.
you know, from the park, if we would ever have a crossing from the park to an official crossing, not that people don't cross there right now, but an official crossing, it might work at Clark, but it's not gonna work at Caldwell,
Mm-hmm.
at least on that side of Caldwell.
So,
And we're not required to have one there, correct?
no,
As
you're not
long as we
necessarily
have one.
required to have one there. No, there wasn't one there before. You're not required to update it or anything like that, no. So, Josh, you wanna scroll down to the last one there? And just show you Cherry Avenue, plan on redoing the big hump there, and flattening that out just a little bit, but that was the planned east end of the project, so, with this one, so. Does that spark any questions, kinda going over some of that? I know it's quick, but.
Nope.
No? So I have a couple of questions, and this is just for, you know, we're sitting pretty well. The center line, we're still gonna play with it a little bit, where there were discussions about, you know, how far is the crown coming down. You know, there's quite a few places you probably won't notice that much of a difference. Obviously, you'll notice by Wheat Ridge. That one's gonna be a foot to 2 feet, somewhere in that range is what that crown's gonna come down. So that one's fairly substantial. But yeah, everything else, we're gonna keep anywhere from 1.5% to 2% cross slope where we can. We actually checked and looked today. A lot of the flow lines on each side surprisingly match, even though sometimes out in the field they don't necessarily look like they do when you're driving down there, but they do elevation wise, which is kind of nice to have a more constant cross slope or cross section. So working with Dustin's been a great help. Working on getting some information still for photometric plan for the lighting. I want to make sure are you guys still interested? We were initially looking at just kind of like the industrial lighting that's out on Highway 24. Are you still interested in looking at that more decorative lighting as well as an option? It'll be, I mean, those poles will be more costly, but is that still something that you guys want to look into?
Oh, as an option, it'd be all right. Just an option.
Just create it as an additional bid option.
Yeah.
If we
the
saw
whole-
what the numbers were.
The only thing I could see that would come in to play is, again, we'd probably have to get an additional photometric plan, but, you know, it might require a few more lights too, just depending on heights and things like that, so. Okay,
Because we're doing an option with the sidewalks too, aren't we?
so that was gonna be my next question, and again, don't have to answer now, but, do we still want sidewalks on both sides? And I'll tell you how we did this and showed this was really anywhere where, like in this stretch on Cherry, there is no existing sidewalk there. We were putting sidewalk back at 6 feet wide where it's up against the back of the curb. We've got an extra foot there for, you know, mailboxes, things of that sort, so that way people can still get around, light poles if they're gonna be that close. But then also an additional room, buffer room from between vehicles and the walking public. So there are some stretches where the sidewalk gets up off of the roadway currently, and it's 3 to 4 feet wide. That we're going back with 5 feet wide. So Josh, could you scroll up just a few, and we can see if we can find one of those. Oh, right there. So between Clark and Broadway, there's already an existing stretch of sidewalk there It's all busted up, but anyways, I mean, right now it's sitting 3 or 4 feet wide, and we'd be putting it back at 5. So yeah, that's a question I have. You know, are we still looking at sidewalks on both sides, wanting sidewalks on both sides? Because something Kent brought up too was, you know, depending on what we end up doing and the lighting, you know, are we gonna want some kind of pedestrian light on the back side of those poles too? Which they make those with deflectors. Is that correct terminology? Deflector? Is it? Okay. To be able to direct that light away from the houses. But then my other question is going to be, you know, how far west do we still want to take the sidewalk? Right now we show it going clear down to Cattle Trail. Do you guys see a need on that south side? I don't know if there's a great place to end it or to stop with some of the conversations we've had. Just because there's not a ton of sidewalk south of 8th Street right now. I mean, there's some, not a ton. There's more on the north side, but just something to think about if that's one of the considerations or something we'd like to know on how far we want to take that, and then where we want to look at stopping, or do we want to? The only place right now we don't show it is basically in front of the county shop. So. I think that answers most of my questions, or I guess that I asked most of my questions. I don't know if you guys have any comments or thoughts on it right now, on how we want to move forward with some of those questions, or do you want more time to kind of study that, look at it, think about it? So we've got a little bit of time here yet. Still, like I said, we're planning on late fall for a bid time, anyways. So.
I guess I'd be curious about what the sidewalk portion of the project was going to cost us. And if we would see a significant savings there by removing one side as opposed to having it on both.
I'd have to look back at my estimate. I don't have that broken out by side necessarily. So, I mean, I can come back with numbers. If you'd want it on both sides and one side, or both sides for a stretch, and then one side for the rest of it. I mean, I can put together anything on a cost estimate.
Any other thoughts? Yeah, I guess I'd be curious to know what if we're gonna have a sidewalk on both sides and we get down to the brass tacks of it, need to know where we can save some money. It'd be nice to know what the difference was.
Okay. Can I ask you guys to review that stuff then, and then maybe come back with some questions, and then maybe, I don't know if you guys have some thoughts or on some of these questions I had on anything, so pertaining to the project. Neil's guys got the water line done we were initially planning. That was in front of the county shop, so that's done out of the way. So that's one less thing we kind of have to worry about with the project. So.
Sounds good. I think we'll take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item C, the 2027 budget staff direction.
As we continue to discuss the proposed 2027 budget, the direction from the city commissioners at last meeting was to put some options together. The commission had approved a notice of hearing on a 2027 budget at 55.74 mils, 740 mils. You had asked for, a couple options, regarding the, to reduce that, down to 54.996 mils, which is what this year's budget or 2026 budget is at. You had also asked, for some options, and then staff put together 3 different options. One thing I do want to let the commissioners just remind them, and also remind the public, that in order to get to the 55.740 mils, staff had to put together about $198,000 worth of cuts. In order to reach the last year's mill rate, we'll need to come up with 32,000, a little over 32,000 more cuts from what was proposed. We included, staff put together some different options. We did have some assistance or from some suggestions from a commissioner on one of the options. But in the CCCF for this agenda topic, just listed out basically items and gave you an option 1, which included 7 different items of adjustments with a total reduction of $34,000, and would get us to, and I know it's almost, we should have almost made it a different number because it looks like the same number, but it's 54.966 mils instead of 996 mils. So it's just a little bit, a skosh under. That's because the final, I always mention this to staff every year that I've been here, and I'm sure previous city managers have done that as well. They change the final valuation on us at the end of the year, most of the time. So you never know what your final valuation will end up. So in order to have a little bit of a tiny little bit of buffer so that it doesn't go over that current mill rate, you put it just a tad underneath at 54.966. And that was $34,000. And you can see the 7 items that are listed there on the CCF. And the second option had quite a few more smaller cuts. Instead of eliminating an item, it was basically reducing the transfers to the MRF for a number of different items. 9, or it was about 10, 11 items. From departments within the general fund. There was a recommendation regarding items for MRF from the utility funds, but that can be done, but it doesn't affect the property tax rate. So the items that do, and it includes the amount for reducing the commercial demolition that we had set aside because of the commercial properties we have under consideration that may have to be demolished. And then a couple of the main items that we had on the option number 1. Not main items, but a couple of items. As far as item regarding reimbursed diesel fuel and election expense eliminated. And then at the end, I know the library made a good presentation. The ad valorem for the library, they said, was asking the city for $20,000 additional dollars. They are actually total between library and library employee benefits, it was actually asking for an increase of 27,000. So this is reducing the ad valorem for the library, reducing it $4,000. That would still keep the entire increase asked for in the library employee benefits, but just reducing it on a little bit closer to that $20,000 level that was mentioned during their presentation. That's within option number 2, and it reduces it $36,000 out of the budget and reduces it to 54.915 mils. And then option number 3 goes back, includes a couple different items to reduce, and ends up back at that $34,000 figure for transfers. And it's just 5 items. It does reduce the amount that's set aside both in this year's budget and next year's budget on the roof. $4,000 worth. And then the commercial demolition, and then any set aside for tennis court. For when we eventually have to redo it again. But that's $34,000. So there's 2 different options at 54.966 mils. There's one option at 54.915. We can do a combination of those, or do it a different way. What I included in your packet, or at your desk, and what Josh has up on the screen now, is it kind of shows in each of these boxes, and I don't know if you can zoom in on that at all, Josh, or not. Of course, the column isn't wide enough, but but the top line shows, and this is, from the mill levy sheet that, we had shown you at a previous meeting, basically taking a $50,000 house, what is appraised at, and appraised value, and then the mill levy. And it shows the 2026 mill levy at 54.996, or it's just another way of doing it, 0.054996. And then the annual tax on that home from just the city sources. Now, people's property tax, they include city, county, school district, and Sunflower Extension District. And in 26, there's still the state that's on there, state of Kansas. But the city portion of it is $316.23 for that $50,000 home, for the simplest one. 27, what was as published, there's a note at the very right that says as published, at that 55.740 mils, would generate $320.51 in annual tax. That's an increase of $4.28 on taxes for a $50,000 home, which there aren't many of those, but there are a couple. There's more than a couple in town with that. But then show option 1, option 2, option 3, and it shows the amounts on each of those. The 54,966 and the 54,915, and it shows what the annual tax is. And you notice that it's $316.05 as far as the annual tax, $316.05. And somehow the mathematical ended up at 17 cents instead of 18 cents. I didn't change it, but you know how that happens in Excel spreadsheets all the time when you're doing formulas. So it's 18 cents less. The second, option 2, would make it $315.76, be 47 cents less for a $50,000 home. Option 3 is the same as option 1. R&R, because people keep mentioning R&R. Even though it's this, when they mention the revenue net neutral rate, that is revenue neutral for the overall valuation of the town. But because our overall valuation went up, the amount of mills needs to decrease just slightly in order to have the same dollar amount. But if your house was $50,000 last year and it's $50,000 this year, you would actually receive a tax cut of not much, $2.79 for that revenue neutral rate to be there. Now, if your house changed valuation at all, whether up or down, it's going to be different. But because the overall valuation of the town went up a little bit, it really didn't go up that much this year. That's why the tax rate actually goes, the R&R rate is set a little bit lower than what it was for the 2026 budget. So I included that just as a comparison. If the commission so directs, we can do things to make it come to that point. And each successive box down below, it has the 100,000 properties, the 150,000, the 200,000, the 300,000. Just did it in raw numbers, didn't include the 125 or the 175 that we had in the previous one in order for the boxes not to be there. And then it shows down at the $300,000 level, then there's, you know, a section of homes that are 300,000 or more as far as value. It shows the annual tax for this year's budget is $1,897.36. For the proposed or as published 2027 budget, where we started with that couple $100,000 in cuts that we did, was $1,923.03. So that's $25 more in taxes. And then the options 1, 2, and 3, and that in the red numbers, that's versus the 2026 budget. That's not from the 2027 as published budget. That's from the 2026. So that's $1896.33, $1894.57 for the option 2, $1896.33 for the option 3, and then $1880.63. So that gives an example for residential properties. Commercial properties are more because they're valued higher. They're assessed at 25% instead of 11.5% for residential properties. So property taxes are more on commercial properties on a percentage basis than they are for residential properties. But there's also, and I didn't copy off the commercial to have, or did I? Yeah. Wonderful city clerk had the commercial property on there as well. So gives you that example as well for commercial properties. And we did it for 50, 100, 200, and 300,000. And give examples. So wanted to show that to you. Also, so at this point, need some direction from the commission. What'd you like to do? Or what would you like staff to get prepared? And then, and actually it doesn't have to have an absolute decision tonight, just basically staff direction. We wanted to be prepared for the public hearing and be prepared to approve a budget at that time. And just needed direction from the commission about what you would like us to do.
Under option one, shouldn't that number be 39,000? That's what those numbers total instead of 34?
Well, I wanted to slip in another 5,000. So. Correct. I think I eliminated the salaries thing on the museum. And somehow I transferred it to this paper.
Okay.
So I apologize for that. Or we can leave it in there.
Well, as usual, Kent, I appreciate your thoroughness, and you made this very easy to understand. Have presented us with several different options here that I think we are certainly feeling more comfortable with. You know, no matter what option we choose here, we're reducing the tax burden. So I think that's what the taxpayers have asked us to do. Yeah, I think there are several different options here that make sense. I think I'd be more comfortable at option one or option three, but probably if I had to choose, option one would be the direction I would go. But again, it's makes me far more comfortable to look at a sheet that, you know, proposes a tax decrease as opposed to where we were at several meetings ago.
I think I align with option one as being the best option.
That's where I stand too, is option one would be the better of the three.
Okay.
Well, I don't know how much more clear that can be then, I guess. Okay.
Staff will have that available. That doesn't mean after the public hearing or during the public hearing, if there's additional thoughts or changes on different things. Just like this process that we've done right now, we have a maximum level that we can go to, but anything below that level can be approved without any additional official. But after the public hearing at next meeting, it's September 8th, actually there's two hearings. There's an R&R hearing and there's a budget hearing. Don't say anything, Ken, about what the legislature's requiring us to do. But we will need to then approve two different official actions from the commission. One based on the R&R, and then one based regarding approving the 2027 budget.
That's certainly a good option for us. I think for some people, it's gonna be hard to understand how we can not meet R&R, but still provide a tax cut, but that's what's happening.
Yeah. Well, and it's a little tax cut, but it's a little.
Something.
Okay. Thank you for everybody's work on that. We appreciate it. We'll move on to item 8, reports. Start with city manager.
Included in your packet is a manager memo and a police monthly activity report. I guess I would ask the street superintendent to come up and describe on the chip and seal project, and also additional notifications that will be given to the homeowners that are actually affected, that live on the streets that are affected. So.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, I guess first of all, I'll let you guys know that we did try to put in the newspaper about this, and the newspaper did not make it in the newspaper. It was presented to them though, so just fell through the cracks, I guess. So,
Thanks for trying.
but I guess I did hear it made it on the radio today, so thanks for the radio to step in there, and 'cause I don't think anybody told them to, but I appreciate it. So, and But we'll be handing out pamphlets. It's gonna be Wednesday and Thursday. We're looking at shooting 3 tankers on Wednesday, 1 tanker on Friday. They have rain in the forecast Wednesday. It might change. We might have to do more on Thursday if we get rain or not. But as far as the streets, we're doing Caldwell from 17th to 8th. We're doing Cherry Street in front of the radio station, just that 1 block. We're also doing 11th Street, just a block from Eastridge to Harrison. That's going to be a double chip. We'll do that both days because the asphalt is showing a lot more stress through there. We can put a little double chip on that one. Hopefully get that caught back up with the rest of the streets. We're doing Center Street from 17th to 8th. Sherman from 13th to 8th. 3rd from Caldwell to Kansas. All of DeLeo area. And then we got 16th entrance coming off Highway 27. And then Industrial Park. 16th. Just a block out there. Not a whole lot. You're looking at about, I think I'm setting around 58,000 square yards. So,
People will be able, they won't be able to drive once the oil's on it, but once the rock's on it, they'll be able to drive.
the rock spreader follows right behind the oil distributor on that stuff. Then you got rollers. Once rollers and everything's off, it'll be opened up traffic. It doesn't. Chip seal is not usually our problem one. It's the fog seal, because fog seal, it takes 2 to 4 hours for that fog to set up to be drivable. So them streets are blocked down to 2 to 4 hours, which we'll be doing here probably in September. B&H Paving is the contractor that does it. They try and get all their chip seals done for the year, then they go back through and take care of their towns that do the fog seal. So we are one of the fortunate towns that do the fog seal. There's a lot that don't. And if you go look at their chip seal versus what ours looks like, they don't put that fog to continue losing rock. We got a good process. It really holds that rock in. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Ken. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Then I would like Zach Hildebrand, building official, to give us an update on some other properties.
Evening.
I was out sick a few days last week and did not have a chance to put them together to bring to you this week. There is one 806 West 15th Street. It's actually 810, but the owner lives at 806. The roof has collapsed in on that garage. So he has gotten a hold of Mike Yager. I spoke with him today, and he's going to try to get a roof put on that. If there's not a roof put on that within the next couple weeks, then we will be bringing that here to get that taken care of, so it's not a hazard to everybody. So man, I'm drawing blanks on my addresses right now. West 16th Street, I know it's that. There's another garage on that street, and it's actually leaning to the north on the front of it and to the south on the back of it. So that one will be at your next meeting. And then the property on West 1710 Syracuse, I believe is the address. It's the house that sits on the right hand side of the street, or the west side of the street on Syracuse if you go south on 17th there. They have a building that looks like what was an original house of Goodland at one point in time that has made its failure to the elements at this point. There's no siding on it, there's no flooring really in it, and it's just trash thrown in it at this point, so that'll be brought to you for the next meeting as well. And that's all I have to report.
Okay. Appreciate all your efforts on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll just continue with different department heads. If Dustin, you could come up and explain some things you had to deal with the outers last week. Or,
Good evening.
You guys are enjoying the cool weather as much as my apartment.
Not bad.
Last week we had a couple outages. One over here on Main Street, we had to shut the entire block off to change 2 transformers out on a three-phase bank. And then later that day, after the guys went home, we had Fifth Street sub. Center phase went out on that, so we had to refuse that on the load side of the transformer. That's also a substation that we've had some gaskets replaced on that transformer. Several years ago, we started a fund to replace the substation transformers in our 6 remote subs throughout town. That's one of the 6. The gaskets on that is about $15,000 to replace the 3 gaskets on it. The new sub that we bought earlier this year was $110,000. So you can kind of see we've had 2 of those subs that we've had the gaskets replaced in the last year. So they charge you kind of through the nose on having people sent from Texas or wherever they bring them up here. That's a lot of the fee. The gasket material is not very much, but the labor is very intensive. So we do have the 6 remote subs we're going to change out. As soon as we get this one delivered, we'll change out the worst DGA oil sample tested transformer, and then send that carcass back in and have it rebuilt, and we'll just keep changing those out. So the cost for the next transformer will be hopefully a little less, since we've already got the carcass. But just with the cooler weather, I'm hoping some of our outages and stuff kind of calm down. When it gets to 104 degrees with no wind, people after 2 or 3 days, they get a little testy. So you just keep cranking that air down, which is pretty hard on our system. I think we had almost 13 megawatts last week. I think it was 12.6, which is pretty good load. So,
How's that compare to some of our higher days in the history?
we've actually, our numbers just continue to go down. Of course, you know, with hotel or 2 or fast food restaurant being down, the numbers drop. I think our residential use is up, which it is what it is. I mean, fewer numbers, but the peak kind of stays steady. Just a lot more people plugging a lot more stuff in, which, I mean, we're in the business to sell electricity. So,
Well, I turned my AC down. I apologized.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with 74. So,
Gotcha.
74 with a fan.
That was me.
We know you have a fan.
Partially me. A couple
Yeah.
fans, yeah.
So, but yeah, it's I mean, cooler weather. We ought to start seeing a drop. You know, 11 and a half. Get to 100 degrees for 3 or 4 days. It's gonna be 13. So, kind of is what it is.
Well, we appreciate all your guys' work out in the heat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Turn those fans off.
We continue to put together items, what was mentioned earlier in the meeting regarding the EDA grant application or the curing letter. There's 22 items that are requested in that curing letter. One of the items is going to require us to work with another firm for a small amount, but the National Historic Preservation Act is required on all federal funds that are dispersed in this manner, requires a desktop review of any historic or cultural things that have happened on the subject properties where the federal funds are being, the grants are going towards. So, reached out to, was able to get that. It'll end up in a small amount of $3,000 to $4,000, but that'll be something additional to that we will have to accomplish in this curing process on the grant. And we continue to meet amongst the other thing that will require a process. We won't be able to complete this during the curing letter process. But once the award is completed, if that is what the EDA chooses, one of their items within the curing letter was that we needed to have a RFP, RFQ process on the design and build and for the engineering part of it. So we will have to go through a formal or follow the federal guidelines for procuring engineering services. We have been using for the preliminary engineering report mid-states associated with KMEA, Kansas Municipal Energy Agency, and they have done a number of these type of projects across the state of Kansas. So it is, James Rimley has worked real well with Dustin and with myself in putting together the information that's gone so far to the EDA regarding it. But we are going to basically have to do a RFP, RFQ process to procure engineering services. So they will have to give us a proposal and also be advertised for any other engineering firm to respond to the RFP, RFQ. But that'll be further on down the road, but it'll be extra steps for us to take during this process. In addition to that, received notification regarding Cameron Cross and the Big Easel. We've been working with him this year, trying to schedule him to come out and take a look at the Big Easel. We had that budgeted, or at least a small amount budgeted. In 2026, he's going to come out and there will be a crane involved to come and inspect the Big Easel, because it's about time to get it. He's worried that how much, if there's significant damage to the Big Easel, because he had that happen with one of his other similar type constructions in Manitoba, Canada. So they actually had to do some additional work to repair and not just to repaint or freshen up the painting. Cameron Cross is the original artist who was able to construct that out there at, I'm forgetting the year, 2001. And then he came back in 2012 and did a repaint of the Big Easel. He's coming back now to inspect it in 2026. And then he will give a report and an estimated what needs to be done regarding it. But he will be coming out August 31st and September 1st is what his schedule is right now. So we look forward to that. The transmission went out on the transmission van. So the transmission van is down for the next 2 days. Staff, Sarah, in the city clerk's office worked with state officials, with Kansas Department of Transportation, to locate another vehicle. And the last information I had is that they have a vehicle in Hayes that is being put out of service for the Hayes, so it's available to be used by another agency. And then we will be able to go and pick up the vehicle on Wednesday. So hopefully we will be back in service with the transportation van services on Thursday. But for the next couple days, we will not be able to provide that service. And we haven't received any estimate on what the repair is going to end up to be for the transportation van. So.
It should be under warranty.
It's even better.
That's what they said.
And then there was a summit scheduled for Wednesday in Colby, put on by the League of Kansas Municipalities. They are going, because of the attendance to it, to a Zoom meeting option. But got a call from the executive director of the League of Kansas Municipalities that after the Elk League conference in October, they're going to have try to have a summit, what they called it, for the western cities or the western third, part of the state about how to boost numbers for these different events that the league puts on for the western half of the state. And that will be in Colby as well. And I don't know if they're gonna have one for the southwest area as well, or just have everybody come to Colby. But, they will put that on and see if, can have some, good discussion regarding that. And that's all I have at this point. I did forget one department head. Neil, regarding well 12 and well 9, did you want to mention anything about them? Different things that he's had to do, not we.
He pointed you out, Neil.
Evening.
Evening.
Well, 12, we put a new meter in there and got it all hooked up to the system where it would read exactly what gallons, and we noticed that gallons fell off pretty quickly. So I had Western Sprinkler from Colby come over and look at it, and it was pumping itself dry. So we slowed it down from 300 and some gallon a minute, probably about 330, down to 150, and I've upped it to about 175. And I'm going to try and up it again next week to try and get as much gallons out of it as possible. And he had stated that in the last couple weeks there's been a bunch of wells that have fell on their faces throughout the tri-state area because of water usage. So we're working on that. He said in the fall we should be able to go back up to where we were before. It's just we're pumping hard during the summer. And well 9, we are within 10 million, just short of 10 million of over pumping that well right. So I have shut it off, and I've used it a couple days over the weekend, about a day and a half, to give well 11 a break, because it's about 30 million off of its well rights, and as much as it pumps, we could get close to over pumping it also. So there's a couple wells that we're watching for pumping rights, and one well that we're watching that is short on water.
One thing that the Commissioner Howard had asked about was the total amount of gallons that can we pump. And we have authority under our water rights to pump 700 million gallons for the year. And we end up these years between 300 and 400 million, sometimes a little into the 400s as far as usage. But within that 700 million gallons, they're assigned to different wells and groups of wells. So it doesn't mean that we can pump all of them up to the 700. We have limits based on different wells. So that's what Neil has to deal with, and working with Shauna in the city clerk's office to try to make sure that we stay within those limits. And our system does get taxed as far as worked real hard. And when certain wells go down, it does, impact the rest of the system. So when we're talking about conservation for the entire year, it isn't just regarding, and I know the commissioners know this real well, it isn't just the, as far as our overall consumption of water, but how it impacts the system in various parts too.
So about August around there, we start looking at wells and seeing where we're at to see how we're going to get to the end of the year.
So just wanted to provide some additional information.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Just keep an eye on it.
Thank you.
And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Any questions?
Next meeting date, we gotta announce that.
The next meeting date is not going to be on Monday, September 7th, because that is Labor Day. So we will be moving it to Tuesday, September 8th. And
That's my calendar.
it has now been announced at this meeting, so it can be officially.
Good catch, Mary. Okay, that being said, any questions, comments, or concerns for our city manager? If not, I'll move on to commissioner reports, starting on my left with Commissioner Redmond.
I just want to say we got school starting up here, so just be watching out for kids. They're going to be riding scooters with their helmets if they're under the age of, is it 12, I believe? So, yep, just be watching out for kids as they go back to school.
Commissioner Howard?
I think we had a decent turnout for the barbecue and the music in the park, for the last one for the season. That's about it.
Okay, for the mayor's report, I'll just say thank you to all the employees that helped with that barbecue, or I'm sure would have much rather been at home with their families, but we're flipping burgers with us, so thank you for that. Appreciate you. Then I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Redland,
Second.
second by Commissioner Howard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.